useless.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Box, the exciting show where we open a box and decide if the box rocks or if it's a box full of rocks.
I don't know if this is going to be a good episode.
This pillow is fucking useless shirt.
Yeah.
Sometimes in life, you have to make a choice. Sometimes in life, you have to find your voice. Sometimes in life, you need your friends, and now's the time to give your ears a cleanse. We'll ramble on about movies, ramble on about movies, with clever, arrogant, handsome Dave, ramble on because the way.
Ahoy, and welcome to a brand new edition of the Ramble On About Movies podcast. Proud to be part of the PJ Campbell Network. But Junkin, we've been gone, but we are back. To all you beautiful people out there, thank you for having us. Thank you. Let us treat your ears and your minds with our voices and our thoughts. We are gathered here today to celebrate this thing called life.
Synergy, 1,000 points of light. Bring it all together.
Yeah, and it's Ramble.
Oh, that's clever Eric Muller across the internet from me.
And that's handsome Dan Knight from across the internet from me.
Oh, it's been a while. It's been a hot minute.
Well, to be fair, Dan, with any minute with us is a hot minute.
Oh. Starting early with the finger guns. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. Brandy already starting bringing in the hot-hitting questions. But where's the giant Eric face?
All right. It's in another room. If you really want it, Brandy, I can go grab it.
Is it like hung up on the wall? Like, is this the thing where it's like you've gone full ego, so it's like above your bed?
No.
And there's the first mascot. You see Ruby popping in the corner.
Ruby saying hi.
Nice. Lovely. Yes, he is the great, amazing chocolate chair. Hi, Ruby.
Say hi, Ruby.
Ruby. I know. I miss you too, Ruby.
Yeah, I know. Dan says he misses you. She's clearly enjoying whatever.
We're not going to talk movies today. It's just going to be an hour of watching Ruby lick Eric's face.
I mean, people would watch that.
It's true. We'd probably have more people watching than our regular shows. So it'd be one of those things where it's like, I think we have to rethink everything now. Because normally we talk movie news, and if there's a puppy involved, I think you are obligated legally to.
You at least have to acknowledge the good boy or a girl that's there.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, we've missed a lot of stuff. It's just we're still in a little bit of a transition period for us. Like personally, we're just trying to figure out a day. Things should be calming down, at least on my end, in the next couple of weeks. So we might have a regular day again. We've just been lucky enough to be like, hey, we're gonna do this on Saturday mornings, and everyone's like, okay. So because nothing else is here, so it works out really well for us. It doesn't work out so well for all the stories that we miss, because it's every time it's like, oh yeah, by the way, there are like 20 stories we can choose from, and then we go.
Yeah, remember the days where we're like, I don't think we're gonna have enough to, maybe we'll get to 30 minutes. Hour would be like, that'd be like pulling magic out of a hat. But
sure, and I mean, normally it's funny
one of those days where we don't have to worry about that.
No, there's so much to go over. Not only like things announced, but castings, and then mergers, and then
unmergers,
and politics too. It's relevant. It's not like we're going full political, because we have been known to do that on previous iterations of the show, and we, don't apologize for those things, but we're definitely trying to keep a positive spin. So, where do we start? Like, should we start with things that we missed from like a couple weeks ago, or you kind of want to hop around, or
you know what they say, always start at the beginning.
Start at the beginning. So I guess I'll knock these two out because I'll put them together. This Knives Out 2, I mean,
yeah,
these ensembles that they're putting together. So for those of you who don't know, I will go over the previously announced cast and then tell you who else they're adding. Because like I said, for those of you who don't know, it was pretty much everywhere over the last couple of weeks. But the already announced cast was Catherine Hahn, Janelle Monáe, Dave Bautista, and Edward Norton, all joining Daniel Craig. And now they've added Leslie Odom Jr. and Kate Hudson. Like, wow. I'm running out of adjectives for how excited I could be for this. Like, this is kind of like growing up when Clue was one of my favorite movies, and like going back and revisiting that all the time. Like, what if a really capable writer director was making more Clue movies, except like a hair less on the comedy? Because there's definitely still comedy in Knives Out, but it's not like overtly comedic. So the balance is definitely there, and Rian Johnson just
Like, I know I can't, and I'll wait patiently, and then once that trailer drops on Netflix, it's gonna be like, oh yeah.
I don't think we'll honestly have to wait that long, because if you remember, and I think we talked about this last time we were talking about the casting, because it goes from, I would not be surprised to see this movie end of 2022. Like the fact that they're filming this summer. Like, I don't think you don't need a lot of posts in this. There's not like CGI all over the place. Like, so I think we get it soon. I think, especially with the amount of buzz Netflix has building behind this, they don't want it to be, they basically don't want it to be Stranger Things season 4. They don't want it to have been teased for 2 years and the pandemic pushes it.
Right.
Like, I think they would love to capitalize on
that.
And
also another thing is the second they can get 2 out, they could start working on 3.
It's true. I do. Granted,
it's not going to be one of those things. I doubt like Netflix is going to be in there. The CEO walks in with this big stogie and tells Rian Johnson the day after, now get on number 3.
Kid, get to work on 3. Apparently, he's
kiddo. We got to make
Bugsy Malone.
We gotta make that money. We gotta get that Knives Out 3 money.
You gotta look out for oops insurance. It would be terrible if something happened to your production. Oops.
Oopsie.
I don't think that would happen.
But
ironically, what you were saying is a little bit of where I was going to go. Like, my only worry / trepidation is I don't want him to get bogged down with this. Like, I would love Knives Out 1 through 6 or however many we're lucky enough to get, but I also want to see him like more creatively working. I think. Well,
and also, again, we don't know his plan. He could already have a script out for 3.
Yeah, very true.
Like, he could be like, I have these 2 movies planned out. That's why Netflix agreed to a 2-picture deal with them, because it wasn't just Knives Out 2 and a possibility of a 3rd. They agreed to Knives Out 2 and 3. So there's some commotion.
Yeah. It's a good slip right in, a seamless transition into Daniel Craig right there. I heard it. Yeah, like you're saying, it's and that would be curious if he already has at least like an outline, like knowing where Benoit is going to go now. I'm curious to see if they're actually going to play Grease as Grease. That's something I'm very interested about, because we know that's where it's shooting. So I don't know what they'll wind up doing with that. But yeah, there's basically nothing bad about all these stories, all these casting announcements that they're getting. Like, I don't know. And now we do get a little bit of radio silence. I will tell you, I don't really want to hear, like you, I don't want to hear much else. If they add to the cast, sure. Yeah. But I'm like you, I kind of want them to keep it a little buttoned up until we get that trailer.
Like, maybe said just one picture of, Daniel Craig in his suit on the beach.
Sure. Yeah. How close are we going to get that to his Bond reveal when he was in that tight little Speedo?
Not very.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
As he has said, he's never doing that again.
There's commitment involved. Let's put it that way.
And also, I don't think Rian Johnson would be like, you know what? This movie needs more Daniel Craig sex appeal.
Well, I mean, when you speak like that, how much more sex appeal can you have? You know what I
Exactly.
mean? Like,
We gotta
woof.
find the hole in the donut hole.
We'll hop to a little bit of quickie. I am gonna hop around just because we have older ones, we have newer ones. And this is almost more of a question. So Oscar Isaac confirms casting in Marvel and Disney Plus series Moon Knight, and that was a story 2 days ago. Haven't we known this for months?
It was one of those things where it's like rumored, like you can even see a training video of him.
Like the worst kept secret, you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. It was the worst kept secret. But also, I mean, because like they had the video of him like practicing fight scenes already out there. But the other thing, it also plays up that one quote, like after Rise of Skywalker, he's like, I'll never work with Disney again. Wah, wah.
I mean, sure. Well, you got to also figure there's so many different parts under the umbrella, like so many little mini umbrellas under the Disney umbrella. Like he was at Lucasfilm, and then he's now going over to Marvel, where actually I'm just going to directly tie this into another story because they very much relate. So it's funny to watch him go from Lucasfilm to Marvel, whereas with the other casting, like I have on my thing, because we don't need to go more into Moon Knight, do we? I can transition away. Okay. So whereas the other one, and you had the most recent being Aaron Taylor Johnson being announced as Kraven the Hunter for Kraven the Hunter standalone, I remember reading when he signed on to, I'm trying to find the story. Oh, there it is. When he signed on to Age of Ultron, he did not want to be in a long running series of Marvel movies. And so we're now going on to his third comic book casting, from Kick-Ass to Quicksilver to Kraven the Hunter. So I find it amusing that like maybe in the last 5-6 years his mentality has changed and he's like, oh, I'm down to do this now, because maybe he's getting to lead a movie. Maybe that's why he didn't want to be part of the ensemble in Age of Ultron. But whatever has wound up happening, we now will have Aaron Taylor Johnson as Kraven the Hunter. So it's one of those, the meme that just keeps growing, where it's like, Hollywood stars going from one superhero role to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So what are your thoughts on this?
I don't know. I mean,
a solid, not confused grunt, but like, I don't know.
It's just... because I know they were trying to get Keanu and Carl Urban for this role, and now they're like, okay, going out there making a unique choice for this. It's just one of those things where, like, considering the work they did with Venom, I'm not sure a Kraven standalone movie would work if he was a villain in a Spider-Man movie or part of the Sinister Six, and then build off of that.
But what do you mean? We have a Morbius movie coming. What are you talking about, Eric?
Oh, that's right, with Jared Leto, where he lived like a vampire for a year ahead of time.
Where he was off the grid and he came back and he was like, wait, COVID's happening? Which is a true story. I'm referring to something. It was more when he did Age of Ultron. That's one of the reasons his character was killed off, because he didn't want to sign on to be locked into, because like you have to think
also,
around
remember back then, like when you did a Marvel movie, you were signed into 6 to 8 picture deal.
I think the most recent I can remember, when Tom Holland signed on, he signed on for 6. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure he had to re-up his contract to do Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering correctly, because his first one was technically Civil War. So he signed on for 6, but like Marvel is very, very good about like you can get into renegotiations, because obviously it's arguably the most successful franchise on the planet. But yeah, he specifically, I do remember reading an article, he did not want to play the character for more than one movie. And that was part of the caveat, that when he signed on, he was only going to be in one film.
Right, because also remember the pay scale too with Marvel movies. They get you cheap, and then they start paying you more.
Sure,
because they didn't want the Robert Downey Jr. thing to happen with everyone.
And Robert Downey Jr. was instrumental in renegotiating basically all the Avengers contracts. So because he knew, that also helps when you have someone who is that seasoned in Hollywood, knowing how to talk and how to navigate that and be like, hey, not only should you be getting,
make sure you get paid.
Yeah, not only should you be getting 8 figures or high 7, close to 8 per movie, but you're going to get points, and you're going to be like, honestly, like the kids from Harry Potter, the people from Avengers, if they're smart with their money, they don't ever have to work again. Like they're fine. So it's interesting. Like I don't think, like reading another article that I won't get into because it was basically a Sony exec going, sure, we'd like to have Spider-Man movies like our own little universe and a Sinister Six and X, Y, and Z. But they were saying the exec basically summed up that he is in Aaron Taylor Johnson is also shooting a movie with Brad Pitt right now and playing opposite Brad Pitt. The dailies were coming back and he was performing so well in that film. Like they really felt confident in being like, no, we want to give him Craven too and see what he can do.
Again, I'm not there. I'm not watching the dailies.
Yeah.
I mean, because again, I don't want to base it like, his brief role, his like 10 minutes in Tenet just totally convinced me he could do Craven with his
it's
big
referenced,
bushy beard.
It's referenced in his casting announcement in Variety, and the movie I was referencing was a movie called Bullet Train, and that one is being directed by David Leitch, which it's going to be funny how much the names David Leitch and Chad Stahelski. I'll have to double check that. Wait, hold on. I have it right here. And Chad, Stahelski. How much David Leitch and Chad Stahelski, like basically, if you have an action film coming out or a comic book movie, you look to one of the directors of the original John Wick.
Yes.
And Reef, this is probably due to that Sony didn't lock him in. Basically, and there was a bigger gap between the movies where the first one was 2000. I think the next one was 04. Spider-Man 2 was 04, and then Spider-Man 3 was 03 or 07, excuse me. So it's one of those things that like Marvel, they've basically got it down to a science, and they are probably as close to a factory manufacturing line as you can have at this point in time. So they're literally just looking for the actors to plug and play, and it's like these movies are getting made. You know what I mean?
And also, Toby almost missed doing Spider-Man 2.
Oh, yeah? Was it?
He hurt his back doing Seabiscuit.
Seabiscuit, yeah.
And that's why they delayed it a little bit. And then it was getting to the point where either he continues or they are going to have Jake Gyllenhaal come in and take over.
How have we never had... Here's a question. How, so Toby was injured doing Seabiscuit, and I remember... I don't think I ever saw Seabiscuit all the way through, but I remember bits and pieces. And I know he had to manipulate his weight quite a bit. And it was like he was getting lighter so he could train the horse, X, Y, and Z. But how is like someone like Christian Bale avoided physical injury for all the shit they put their body through? You know what I mean?
Well, Bale's going to feel it later in life is my bet.
I hope that guy takes all the vitamins and like when he's not preparing for a role, I hope he really is taking care of his body, because his heart has to be his heart is like Jason Statham's in Crank, or that heart can literally survive from the Chinese shit. Like, and I'm saying that as a reference to Crank, not anything else. I wanted to make that very clear because I realized as I said it, I'm like, that reference did not age well.
I made a mistake quoting this movie. Oh no.
Because that's all they call it. I recently watched it with I can't remember if we watched the first one. I think we watched the second one, and they're bonkers movies. But like basically Jason Statham's heart is like immune to something that would kill a normal man. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, Christian Bale, good for you that your heart is,
indestructible.
Next level. Yeah. So and so the tentative release date for Crepe and the Hunter is January 13th, 2023. So interesting that they would drop that in January, which is we've kind of evolved to where the only dumping grounds for movie now is January and September. And even September is starting to kind of buck that trend where.
Well, also you got to remember we're still in, the post-COVID world. Well, getting there. So all these studios, because remember, 2020, nothing was released more or less. The big studio Tenet films.
No tentpoles.
So everything got pushed back. So then that means whatever time slots are left, that's when movies are going to go take. So, I mean, it's not like we're going to get like Avengers 5 in January.
Yeah, New Year's Day, go see that.
I mean, I would, but.
So since you brought it up, let's go ahead and talk
better
about
than when we saw Cats on New Year's Day.
It's still our fault 2020 happened. I understand.
It totally is our fault.
So since you brought it up and since we were talking about a pre and post COVID era, a big thing that was dropped this past week was major movie theater chains are dropping mask requirements if you are fully vaccinated. And it started with AMC and then it has moved on to Cinemark and Regal. So you're talking about the three biggest chains in the country. And yeah, no, Reef, you're totally right. Like it's before we go too far into this theater story, just to comment on that. Yeah, it is. When you're looking at a physical transformation from anyone on screen, there is a lot to it. Like you even consider the fact that Edward Norton released and shot Fight Club right after American History X. So when you watch those two movies back to back, like you have to do things very smartly, very healthily, or you can really fuck up your body for a long period of time.
Remember, Bale went from the machinist? Yeah, machinist.
I think he went from the machinist to Batman Begins.
Yeah. Think of that body transformation.
Well, and from what I remember reading about Batman Begins, he actually gained too much weight. And they started, like, apparently the crew started calling him Fat Man, which is kind of aggressive and kind of fucked up. Yeah. And then so he lost another 20 pounds after he put it on. And that was what we saw on film. Yeah, I know. Try to wrap your brain around that.
No, I'm just trying to, like, you know what? Now I totally understand when Christian Bale blew up on that one guy in Terminator Salvation. He had all that pent up anger from the crew calling him Fat Man. From years previous, from 2 years previously, when that one guy crossed his line when he wasn't when he wasn't supposed to, that caused the snap.
How dare you? So anyway, masks will not be mandated if you're fully vaccinated. It says they're easing their COVID-19 protocols. But like most things, it is not everywhere. So masks are still mandated here in LA because that's something I didn't know. LA is the country's largest movie going market. That's fun. I think it's because we're so densely populated. So that makes sense.
Well, also, I mean, look at the industry that's there.
Yes, exactly. So, but it's also like, it looks like it's kind of going on the honor system, which is kind of strange. So strange. Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like, and it says, 75% of cinemas still remain closed is what it's saying now. So we're only at 25% reopened, and that's not including the ones that have like permanently hemorrhaged and shut down, like the ArcLight theaters shut down out here. I don't know if any of these other chains are going to be they're going to have to be bought, or somebody else is going to have to buy them. So it's interesting that, like, and we talked a little bit about this before. So you were still not going to a movie theater.
Granted, like, I was like, ooh, The Quiet Place Part 2. I'm not ready. I mean, I just went to my first restaurant since February 2020 last night. Like, that's how I'm just like dipping my toes in slowly but surely.
I've done restaurants. I haven't done movie theaters. We are a fully vaccinated panel today, so that's a less of an issue. Other OG Chris has been like, we should go see movies, and I'm like, yes, timing hasn't worked out. Like, I'm not against it, but there's also not. I feel like the first movie that could really pull me in, maybe Black Widow.
Yeah, that's more or less what I've set my mindset to, is Black Widow will be the one that gets me to go to the theater. Yeah, because I also feel like enough time has passed since.
And there's still social distancing involved in most theaters. Like, they're still not going at 100% capacity. And it is July. It's still another month out. Am I remembering that correctly? Okay. So it's a little bit further off. And while we're talking about it, so like I'm in the same boat where it's like a little apprehensive, but they did say A Quiet Place 2 is projected, because it is only Saturday, it's projected to make 57 million at the box office this coming weekend, which is
the biggest since
the shutdown. So I think when you consider, it was, if I remember correctly, Bad Boys for Life was the top earner at the box office last year. And so A Quiet Place was
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah. So A Quiet Place 2 could get to those numbers pretty quick. So it's projected to do, A Quiet Place 2 is, Oh yeah, the sequels. It's projected to do 47 million through Sunday, and then 57 million by Monday because it is a holiday weekend. So they tack on those Monday numbers. Sure, but we were talking a little bit about like biggest earners. So if Tenet did 25 million, that's still, and especially mid-pandemic, you know what I mean? Reef, that's an interesting thing. Going back to the actors' diets, Russell Crowe said that in preparation for Man of Steel, part of his contract that he could only eat the food the studio provided him. Henry Cavill had the same clause in his contract. Yeah, the only thing I want to point out about that is Henry Cavill had to probably do a lot more work than Russell Crowe. Because Russell Crowe, like, you know, he has X, Y, and Z to do, but he's not going to be under the public scrutiny of the physical shape that Superman is actually going to be. So it's definitely interesting, but like, I'm sure Henry Cavill was already like 5 or 6 months into preparation before the studio was like, oh, hey, by the way, we need you to look like this.
All right, so I pulled it up. I pulled up the top 10 grossing movies of 2020.
Okay.
Number 1, Bad Boys for Life, with 204 million. So that one, yeah. Number 2, 1917 with 157 million.
Oh, geez, I would not have called that.
Yep. 3, Sonic with 146. 4, Jumanji: The Next Level at 124.7. And then number 5, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker with 124.4.
Wow.
And then Birds of Prey, Doolittle, Little Women, The Invisible Man, and The Call of the Wild all did under 100 million, from 84 down to 62.
Rounding out the rest of the top 10. Wow.
Tenet grossed 57 million last year.
Yep. So it's basically everything from the first 3 months.
Yep.
And it's holdover from either award season or
December. Big release.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's funny. That's really funny. So yeah, basically it's one of those things that like slowly but surely the things are starting to open up again. People are feeling like more comfortable going out. Like I've seen it around here. Like traffic is starting to ramp up. I don't know how it goes. Is there?
Last night, me and my wife were out driving. You know, the horrible drivers are out, and I was like, "Nature is healing."
Oh God, dude, they're horrible drivers. Like there have been horrible drivers since I've been out here. Like I've started to, I put it out there online the other day where I'm like, I don't understand why, and I wanted to like nickname it something regional because I've never seen this before. It's such a phenomenon. Like I'd say 3 times a month, I'll see people driving like Grand Theft Auto, just like flying, weaving in and out of the lanes. But the one thing I see all the time is what I want to call like, we'll say the SoCal merge. And so even though the ramp is coming up and you need to get off, they're going to merge over 2 lanes to get out. You know what I mean? Yeah, no, it's really weird. And I've seen it happen so many times. And I'm like, what's the point? Like, I understand with a zipper merge, technically you're not supposed to merge till the last second, but over multiple lanes, that seems dangerous.
Unnecessary?
Yeah, unnecessary too. Yeah, it's very curious out here. I'm going to walk back a little bit because I can get us to a different story that is similar to what we were just talking about, where they have now announced that there is a Batgirl movie being made for HBO Max, directed by the 2 directors of Bad Boys for Life, Adil El Aribi and Bilal Flah.
Your number 1 movie of last year.
It wasn't number 1.
I thought it was.
No, I think it made it like 4 or 3. My number 1 was Hamilton.
There we go. But remember, this was what originally, that property was what brought Joss Whedon to WB.
Bad Boys? Oh, Batgirl.
No, Batgirl. He was originally to write and direct a Batgirl movie. Then he got pulled to do Justice League, and then everything fell after that. There's a lot more that's probably a little bit more negative than we're going to delve into, because we try to keep it lighthearted and happy now. We're not going into the details, but let's just say bad things.
In addition, so they're going to be directing the Batgirl movie. Also, very interesting is Christina Hodson, who wrote Bumblebee and is the with Warner Brothers already for having screenwriting credits for Birds of Prey and The Flash. So penned the script for what is being planned for a movie for HBO Max. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with this. And I hope that this is one of those things where the mergers don't screw it up too much. And I suppose we can get into that next because that'll be another nice little segue. Because I liked what they did. Like I felt like it was necessary to inject a little bit of variety into Bad Boys for Life. Like I kind of like that it was a nice Michael Bay homage. Like there was definitely more
without going full Michael Bay.
Exactly. There was more depth to it. It wasn't just explosions and let's see how many cool ways we can get Will Smith to kill people and Martin Lawrence to make funny jokes. They added some layers of depth to it. I'm a little sad we didn't get Joe Carnahan's version because I'm a big fan of Joe Carnahan as a director. But I understand like why he won't do projects like this. So another one. This is cautiously optimistic. To me, this is the Warner Brothers like actually taking where they're actually doing that thing that we wanted them to do and not focus on connecting everything. And they're just making standalone films because they have good properties and they're starting to attach good talent to them. Do you have anything to add? I saw that. But
sorry, I'm reading the notes and then it's just. Yeah. Well, when we get into the merger story, I'm gonna go on my mini rant about Warner Brothers and their mishandling of the DCEU and all that fun stuff.
Hindsight in general. But I mean, as far as the Batgirl news, like excited, trepidatious, like
I'm wait and see.
Okay.
It's what I would say because again, we don't know who's cast in it yet, so we don't know who the lead is. Because that would, help, either minus negative or be like, oh, you're going with this unknown, kick ass, or something like that. Yeah. But it's just one of those things where, it's one of those things where I gotta wait till I gotta see the trailer first before I cast judgment. Yeah,
I would say my excitement went from like basically not even knowing this project existed to I'll check it out to who they have attached. Like it's not nearly like the Knives Out 2 level excitement, but it's definitely like you've piqued my curiosity. Put it that way.
Well, you're not Josh Whedon, so congratulations.
Hey,
you crossed the bare minimum.
So because we already brought it up, and man, I got to tell you, these transitions are just like they're coming nice and easy today.
Yeah. Gonna try it on and walk it out.
Yeah, exactly. So it came out. It actually came out almost 2 weeks, like almost right after we did our last show, like 13 days ago. So we did it 2 weeks ago. That AT&T is spinning off HBO, other Warner Media assets, in huge deal with Discovery. And basically what wound up happening was when I first saw it, it was reading like Discovery was buying Time Warner, but now it seems a little bit more like it's going to be a merger, which we'll get into a little bit of the specifics with another news story we have to cover after this one. And then I read this big long article about like one of the executives being like, oh, we owe so much to AT&T and now we're going to move on to just like, I'm just so like, if you would have told me that Time Warner will not be with AT&T anymore and they're going to go to another company, I never in a million years would have picked Discovery.
Yeah, no, not
like it seems weird to me, especially because like their audience, and this is maybe why it makes sense from a business point of view, because their audience is the crossover has to be minimal.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't figure that like anything Discovery's doing, like HGTV, like basically everything that they were currently doing, Food Network, like Discovery Channel, all those things, you can't figure they're going to be cannibalizing their own audience. So maybe that makes sense from a business point of view, which is, well, again, the second story we cover about this. But like we mostly talk about, and I'll keep this short because I know you said you had thoughts, but when you get any big companies merging, like the people at the top really benefit, and I'm really worried the content is going to suffer.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're kind of like snake eating its tail. You won't have as many smaller creators getting chances. You're going to cut out a lot of mid-budget, small budget things. So you'll either get micro budgets or massive budgets. I don't think there will be much in between. So where you have thoughts about this?
Okay, so from what I'm gathering, it's not like I don't think it's all doom and gloom for that part. It's because I think what it's going to be is Discover's going to be like, we're going to handle our content. We're going to handle, the unscripted television here on our parts with all of our networks. You guys just focus on making movies and doing your stream, because that's the main thing, is the streaming services of HBO Max. That's going to be the moneymaker going in the future.
Well, and it's going to be interesting because they have, just to piggyback on that, like, because then you also have Discovery Plus, which was announced recently. And so
something tells me that's probably going to,
you think it'll be a bundle?
Yep, which is great because my wife really wants Discovery Plus. So
I mean, yeah, in the short term, some of those things are pretty nice.
But I mean, again, also at the same time, this is a move that probably should never have happened, because AT&T and Warner Brothers mismanagement of their properties for the past, I'll say 5 years.
I looked through it. It's one of those numbers, like I've shoved a lot of news into my head in the last 24 hours.
Well, because I know they were talking about like the past 3 years. I remember in one article they brought that up.
Yeah, 3 years ago. So wow, AT&T's only owned Time Warner for the last 3 years.
Right.
So that's what I was trying to find.
Right. And just look at just how they mismanaged the DCEU. Look how they mismanaged Game of Thrones. Look at how just they've
Harry Potter.
Look at how they dropped the ball so much. But at the same time, I will miss John Oliver's rants about AT&T being his business daddy.
It's fair point.
But so, I mean, I think this could end up being a positive for Warner Brothers if they are smart and hire the right people. But, again, that's me putting their faith in them to do things the right way. But I have yet to hear them call you for any kind of project. So no, they're not being smart.
I mean, my phone's open. It's not ringing right now. And I don't think anyone over there has my number. And if somebody does, it's going to be an intern who I know very, very ancillary, in a very ancillary way. I didn't use that word right. But I mean, yeah, it's one of those things. I get worried that like there's going to be a day in the next 5 to 10 years where everything is going to be Amazon, Disney, or Apple. And like everything else is going to be gone by the wayside. And it's going to be really, really hard for any other companies to put out things you'll get them. You'll still get small content creators like YouTube and Twitch are actually doing a great job of facilitating that. But I'm worried that the audience, it'll be harder to find essentially. And I worry that the convenience of streaming will usurp the good quality that you can find, because you'll literally have to hunt it out.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that got sped up by probably 5 years because of the pandemic, because they had to adjust to a year of no theaters. So what's the best way to make sure people are getting your content, getting your movies, your TV shows, your specials, is you put it on a service that they pay for, and then they can get it, and you get all the information, and you also get all the profits off of this.
You go directly to them. Sure.
Exactly. You cut out the middleman. Now, in 5 years, when we only have the 3 options of Apple, Amazon, or Disney, sure, there's going to be other opportunities out there, and I think that's what will keep theaters alive. It's going to be these other people working with the theaters, as opposed to the big corporations going, nope. Because eventually it's either going to be all streaming services for them to release their big stuff, or they'll just say, we're going to buy Disney's going to buy AMC. So AMC will be the exclusive home for Disney. And then Amazon's going to come in and be like, we're going to buy Regal. So Regal will be the exclusive home.
Yeah, which I don't, and it's going to be curious to see like when the government or the FCC steps in and be like, no, these are too powerful. The monopolies are too much. Like when the ABC or when the Disney Fox merger happened, it's interesting because then you get into scenarios where you hadn't even thought about before, where I think Disney had to sell off. Like that's why like they had to sell off the Fox regional stations, because that would have been a monopoly on literally almost all sports broadcasting in America, because anyone who watches local sports knows in their area, typically it is a Fox Sports Regional, it's Fox Sports Ohio, it's Fox Sports Midwest, it's Fox Sports like South Carolina, like it's any one of those. And that's why it got rebranded, because they had to sell off those properties because it would be a monopoly.
Yep.
So it's curious how far they'll let things go. And that was actually one of the things in one of the later articles where I had actually never heard of this company, but there was apparently also a part of the Time Warner Discovery merger where they were trying to, apparently Time Warner was looking to do a mega deal with cable giant Charter Communications, and I never heard of that brand particularly, but I got a hunch that like if they did it, it would be that would be another thing that would be, you know, very bad in general for the populace, but like good for them business wise.
You know what Charter Communications is? They go by another name.
Oh, who is it?
Spectrum.
Oh, sure. So Charter is probably Spectrum and then Comcast. It's probably both of them, because depending on what part of your country.
Well, Comcast is with Universal.
Oh, they are? Okay.
Yep.
Everything is owned by something or some other person. So, so while we're talking about all happy merger news, Amazon decided to buy MGM.
Bezos really must love being a James Bond villain, because he wanted to buy the whole franchise.
And that's he actually comments on that, where he says, I have quotes here from him where he says, "We're looking forward to reimagining and developing some of the deep catalog of MGM. The acquisition's thesis here is really very simple. MGM has a vast, deep catalog of much-loved intellectual property. With the talented people at MGM and Amazon, we can reimagine and develop that IP for the 21st century. People who love stories are going to be the big beneficiaries," which, yeah, sounds great on paper.
Yeah, of course.
So it is a definitive agreement. They're acquiring MGM for $8.45 billion, including MGM's debt, which they have, which is curious because I remember we talked about a couple of years ago, we talked about MGM. You remember when they were talking about selling off the Bond franchise?
Yep. I do remember that.
Did they ever actually sell it, or did they just keep it? Because then
they kept it, and now they got sold over to Amazon.
Yeah. So, and apparently Bezos also cited films, and this is where it takes a little bit of a turn for me. That's kind of interesting. So he cited James Bond, obviously, but then Thelma and Louise, Raging Bull, RoboCop, and Tomb Raider, as well as TV shows like The Handmaid's Tale and Vikings. You're gonna reimagine Thelma and Louise and Raging Bull?
You're more than welcome to try.
I mean, they tried RoboCop and they tried some to varying degrees of success Tomb Raider. I know you saw that and I didn't. So
it was okay. It was okay.
And Handmaid's Tales had a really great run. So
well, it's on Hulu, so guess I'll soon be on Amazon.
Oh, that's a good point. So how do you feel about this in general?
It's a little rough. I'm not going to lie.
Tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. I mean, I knew something like this was going to happen. I knew Amazon was going to just flat out buy one of the studios. I was wondering if it was going to be Sony or MGM, but as we discussed years ago, with MGM trying to sell James Bond so they could stay afloat, just Amazon struck while the iron was hot and got that deal.
I think I've read a few things where I've seen the CEO of Sony be like, no, we're not for sale. And especially because Sony it's not like MGM where, this is a little bit of a riddle / trivia question. What else does MGM produce?
No idea.
Just movies. Sony actually is very diversified. So Sony is one of those ones that, like, even if their like movie thing is suffering, like you remember just how crazy everyone was going over PS5s. They still have their like tech wing as well. So I think Sony is one of those ones. They will they may be the last domino to fall in like how we were talking about that. And I was having a conversation earlier on Twitter where I still don't know where the rights are for Community. They may still be at Sony. They may be somewhere else. So but Drew, I actually am with you on this one. Most Pink Panther movies and maybe RoboCop. I like that Pink Panther call. I think that is a property where, did Steve Martin do 2 or just 1?
2.
Okay. That would be another one I would not mind seeing, like kind of like a Steve Martin-esque casting. I would love to see an older comedic gentleman step into that and really put his own stamp on it, because I think that's another one that like, no, I think if you rebooted Pink Panther, no one's going to be like, why would you reboot Pink Panther? Like, I don't think anyone is so beholden to that property that there would be people up in arms about it. Who would you like to see if they did do that?
Michael Shannon.
Oh my God. I love that casting. Oh, because he's so good in comedies. Like, oh, he makes me smile. Like just saying Michael Shannon in most like, because it's
just one of those things. I would just love to see him try to tackle a role like that. Really break him out of his typecasting.
Well, and he started to do that. Like he's great in The Night Before, Knives Out 2. He's pretty comedic in as well, even though he gets a little bit of kind of creepy other
Michael
things
Shannon.
like that.
Yeah, he goes a little bit into the Michael Shannon well for that one. We have the right people who can help you.
I will find him. Talking about the murder or the person who stole the Hope Diamond. I don't know. I needed to think of a Pink Panther premise off the top of my head. But yeah, so we'll keep an eye on it. It's one of those things that like you're gonna see the streaming services change. Okay, this is a fun one too, Star Drew. Or maybe Over the Top could be made again. I take a reboot. Do we just immediately cast Chris Hemsworth in Over the Top? And he has to arm wrestle Hugh Jackman
for custody of his son.
Yeah. I'd watch it.
Also, Roadhouse. That'd be another one.
I want to see a Roadhouse reboot, but could it be?
Well, there was that one. With,
wasn't there one? I thought we talked about one. Let me check.
Yeah, there was supposed to be one with Ronda Rousey as the lead.
Oh no, was there?
Well, there was a Roadhouse 2.
You were right. Yeah, Ronda Rousey to play lead role in upcoming Roadhouse.
Because I know there was a made for direct to video Roadhouse 2 starring one of the guys from that thing you do as the son of Patrick Swayze.
It says Roadhouse 2 is one of the better directed TV sequels out there, and it was starring. Let's see.
Roadhouse 2, Last Call.
Whoa, why are you? Oh, directed TV. Who is
Jonathan Sassage?
I can't find it. How it respects the original. This was a Slash Film article, and I can't find it quickly, so I'm probably gonna. Is Jake Busey the bad guy?
I believe so.
Okay, then I guess I'll just have to IMDb it to see who is actually in it. Roadhouse 2 Last Call. Yeah. Is the name. It was a 2006 directed TV sequel. Okay. Jonathan Shaich, who played the lead singer of That Thing You Do.
Yep.
That's interesting casting. So yeah, but we were both right that the Ronda Rousey thing was what it was. And it was, let me see if I can pull a date where it was announced, because I remember talking about this.
So
you ready for how long ago this announcement was?
I remember how long ago it was. It was 2015. But I went on the IMDb page for it and said Ronda Rousey was set to star in the lead role originally played by Patrick Swayze, but was later fired. Ooh. So that's why we haven't heard from it. So now Amazon can remake Roundhouse.
Do whatever they want with it.
Roundhouse.
Round Roadhouse. Round. I don't know. We'll say all those things. Okay. So we talked about that. Get out of there. We talked about the merger. I'm going to hop to a completely different one. But there is a small connection. since Amazon Studios is doing this, there is a Val Kilmer documentary coming out set by Amazon Studios and A24. From the sounds of it, this movie is done, and it's already done by A24, and Amazon bought it. So it is called Val, and it traces the life and career of the mercurial actor through interviews and behind-the-scenes footage supplied by Kilmer himself, who is also starring in Top Gun Maverick. So it's one of those things where I guess he was filming himself for years and just kind of hello and Blixo. He's been filming himself for years, and he just Jesse's in here too. Hi,
Bonjour.
Buongiorno. He was filming himself for years, and he just gave the footage over to a couple directors, directed by Lee Scott and Ting Pu. So it's one of those things, like, reading the whole article like is really interesting. But it is like, I'm curious to see it, because it did feel like after late 90s Val Kilmer, he was going to be around for a really long time.
Oh yeah.
And then he fell off, and I didn't learn this until later, that he did have throat cancer, which is why, like, I feel like his first big movie back after Kiss Kiss Bang Bang was MacGruber.
I do remember he had cancer. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it said Amazon Studios will release Val later this year in US and Latin America, and A24 has the rest of the worldwide rights. So, I mean, how are you feeling about this?
I mean, I look forward to seeing how it would go. I mean, Val Kilmer's a very interesting dude, and much like you, I'd like to see what has happened with him since Kiss Kiss Bang Bang.
Yeah. So, I mean,
because I know he's done a lot of stage work. Like, he did a show where it was Mark Twain for the longest time.
He basically has nothing but positive things to say about the filmmakers and the project. So, like, it's interesting to see that he's that engaged. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Your dream Valentine, Jesse. I see what you did there.
Oh.
Also, here, because this has already happened, Eric, what is the name of the character that Val Kilmer played in Psych?
Detective Dobson?
Yes. He's only in the series finale. Because Dobson is never shown. He's only mentioned off screen. I will tie this in because we talked a little bit about that. Let me see. Well, there it is. Because this does tie in, because it has to do with another not autobiographical. I don't know if that's true. Brandy says Jesse's going to run out of dad jokes before he ever comes a dad. There is an infinite supply of dad jokes out there, Brandy.
Mm-hmm. And Jesse, if you want a piece of advice to make them even better, do it with a Russian accent.
Ooh, dad jokes in Russian accents. I feel like there's another YouTube channel, or at least a show, to come out from that. So, but in tying this into a biography of some sorts, or this isn't a documentary, but we've discussed this in the past, that there is going to be a Mike Tyson show, quote unquote. I don't know what a limited series. I think that's what it was.
Oh, okay.
Coming to Hulu, and they have cast Mike Tyson, and it will be Trevante Rhodes, which is, in my opinion, a great casting.
Oh yeah,
he's a fantastic actor. They do look kind of similar, so they will be able to pull that off. And it is an 8-episode drama, and we've talked about this before. It's behind the creative team from I, Tonya, which I know you loved, so you were excited about that.
I do.
And you still have the same producers, so Margot Robbie is still producing as well. The screenwriter of I, Tonya created the series. But the interesting part that I want to bring up to people is, so there's all that, and it's all well and good. And then apparently Tyson was briefed on it, but the last little part of the article about this says, picked up straight to series in February, Tyson immediately blasted the show as tone-deaf cultural misappropriation about his life story. And Tyson is also himself attached to executive produce a scripted series about his life with Jamie Foxx attached to star, but that project doesn't have a network attached. So, yeah, really curious about that last part.
Well, not only that, I'm willing to bet Jamie Foxx isn't much younger than Mike Tyson currently. So,
I mean, if I had to guess, I would say like 10, 15 years. Because Tyson, I could probably pull this up pretty quick. No.
Okay, so Jamie Foxx is 54.
Jamie Foxx is 54. Let me see
which
if I
means
can
he was
find.
great in Project Power.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then Mike Tyson is 50. No, that's his total fights. He's also 54. Great poll. Holy cow.
Yeah, so I'm trying to imagine Jamie Foxx trying to play a younger Mike Tyson. I mean, how's that going to work out?
I mean, I would imagine Jamie Foxx could do it, but you also have to figure like it's a pretty good comparison where like this is where people in the real world will compare themselves to celebrities, and so literally Jamie Foxx as an actor and a person in the public eye, and I want to throw another name into this thing too. We have all seen those thirst trappy photos of someone like Lenny Kravitz, who's 50 and he's in better shape than I've ever been in my life. He looks like he's 22. So they're part of Jamie Foxx's job literally is to look amazing for as long as possible. And part of Mike Tyson's job was to get punched in the face.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking at like say skincare and you're looking at maintenance on physical, like Mike Tyson's maintenance was to be, able to take a punch, whereas Jamie Foxx is to make sure he can look however.
Like he could take a punch.
Yeah, or he could throw a punch, apparently. So I think that last part of the article is so interesting to where it's like there's another, like, I don't know if it's stuck in development hell or they don't have a network, but like the fact that this has so much steam, it's already to Hulu, you already have a well-known creative team and production team behind it. It just got cast with a great actor. And Mike Tyson's like, not a fan. And
no, I just love it because like how Hollywood's always like trying to do the same movie at the same time. So Armageddon, Deep Impact,
sure.
The 2 Snow White movies. So now we got dueling Mike Tyson projects.
Yeah. Apparently that's where we are in 2021. Do you have any thoughts about the casting or any of those two? Anything else?
Great casting. It's just now, okay, I'm reflecting on what you're saying about what Mike Tyson said about the Hulu backed one, and
yeah,
I think it's one of those things where he's trying to like double dip. So it's trying to be a salesman. So he's like, you know what? No, this one is trash, and you shouldn't watch it. Which therefore will make people go watch it, which puts money in his pocket because he had to sell the rights in order to make the project happen. So then he can do this other one where he gets that project. So, got Mike Tyson for being a respectable businessman.
I mean, either that or he is really bitter.
I mean, there's that too. But I mean, I'm not trying to offend Mike Tyson because I know he could literally kill me with a punch.
Yes.
At 54.
Yes, of course. Same. I want to hop to one other weird bit of movie news, and then I think I'm going to gloss over one of the things we talked about earlier because I have a couple more casting announcements we have to get to. But there is hey, look who's in the chat. You know this guy. What's up, Isaac? And Eric, get your shame bell ready. I should put that GIF in the notes so I can pull it up when I have to do this. I still need to see this movie on the screen because I've heard it's fantastic from multiple people, and I haven't watched it. Blind Spot. I was waiting for the shame bell. It didn't pop up.
Shame.
There it is.
I'm just saying, we're rambling about movies.
I've had a lot going on. You would think. Okay, so this is probably the most not outlandish, but the most I want to preface this with I was listening to the top 10 the other day, and Matt Nost actually called this. He called this exact story happening. Whereas Matthew McConaughey, this is the I'm trying to think. I guess I'll just do the first sentence in the article. Matthew McConaughey continues to give previews of what his leadership might look like as he mulls running to be the next governor of Texas. That's where we are, folks. Matthew McConaughey is considering running for governor of Texas. And so it's very interesting because Texans love McConaughey. Like, true. They love him. He is an Austin boy through and through. He was actually a big champion of Austin FC of the soccer team. So he's like the brand ambassador. He even cut a commercial for the MLS, which is huge for the MLS because you consider like some of the star power like playing around in that sandbox. Whereas you have LAFC with Will Ferrell as a partial owner, you have Inter Miami with David Beckham is more or less the full owner, and then you have fuck Isaac, you son of a bitch, you had to say it. Isaac quoted. There's a much longer story to this, but basically the old owner of the Crew said, "Respect our ambition" when they were trying to move the Crew to Austin. So I respect the ambition of McConaughey a lot more than I do of Queso King.
Shots fired.
So it's one of those things like, what are your feelings about this? Like there's a lot to unpack here with McConaughey being like, I could be governor.
He should, and try to find out, because if that's successful, you know what the next logical step is.
You go into politics?
What? Me? No,
you said if you're that successful, what's the next logical step?
No, I said if it's successful, if Matthew McConaughey runs and becomes governor of Texas,
sure.
The next logical step would be then for The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, to run for president.
I thought you were going to keep the McConaughey thing going on. I thought you were going to be like, oh, then he runs for senator, then he runs for president. But no, you go straight to The Rock. Interesting.
Well, the whole premise of Young Rock, his TV series, is it's set in 2032 or something like that, and he's running for president. So he's already dipping his toes into that process.
I mean, I don't think that's a
You'd
direct
be the second most unqualified person to ever be president, but I would be damn proud if he was our president.
I want to focus a little bit more on the McConaughey, because I think it's more likely McConaughey will throw his hat into the presidential ring before The Rock does. Hey, Andres, welcome.
Rock can only kicks ass in movies for so long. Look what happened with Schwarzenegger.
I mean, and yeah, Schwarzenegger could be governor, but he could never be president because he wasn't born in this country.
That's correct.
So, I mean, I still think
Rock's going to be turning 50 here soon, so
I would be interested to see where McConaughey's political career goes. Because you could take that popular belief. You could think that McConaughey could one day try to run for president as well. And he seems to have more of an interest in politics. Like The Rock, I think The Rock has entertained it because people have kind of put that bug in his ear. Like, I don't know if anyone was clamoring for McConaughey to become governor. I think that's something that like he and his people have like been like, we could do this. And he's like, yeah, as opposed to, it's when you are The Rock and you are arguably the biggest movie star on the planet. And then if enough people are going to say you should do something, you'll have to address it eventually.
Yes.
So I think that's where The Rock is. I think The Rock, especially with a successful production company, I think it may be lower down on his list of priorities. Because his production company has been like credited. He did, I think it was $7 Productions, and he's on most of the movies he's in now. So he's a great businessman at this point too. And I don't know if McConaughey is really, I don't know if that's where his heart lied, or if he was just being a movie star and not really doing more on the production side. So,
but again, I'm just trying to imagine like the political attack ads against Matthew McConaughey. It's like he's been photographed naked, and I mean, is that supposed to be a bad thing?
He smokes a lot of pot. Yeah, and so we
look at his Lincoln commercials. They're just weird.
Yeah. I don't know how you do attack ads on McConaughey. Think about how charming he is. Fuck, we're getting into it now too.
I mean, look at that jawline. My God, you get lost in it.
I have to highlight this. Isaac says, I'm sure it'll be all right, all right, all right. So we have multiple puns in the chat. I will always highlight good puns. Yeah, so
my fellow Texans, let me tell you, things are going to be great from now on. I was visited by girlfriends of years past. Let me tell you.
I learned how to lose the race for the governorship in 10 days.
Hey, Texas right now is old, dazed, and confused, but I'm going to make it all right, all right, all right.
You can just watch me there on your MTV Ed TV. Okay.
Good point in the chat right now.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Andreas. It says working with a bunch of studios over the year, $7 Productions has been one of the most consistently well-oiled machines in LA. And that's
Well, also to be fair, The Rock is one of the most well-oiled men in LA.
I wish we could put a poll up. Who's more well-oiled, $7 Production or The Rock and his body? What is that? Where's the lie?
Right.
Where's the lie?
No lies have been detected.
Okay, we have a couple other, just a few more news stories. We've made it to the last little bit. We have some other big ones. I think we should jump to the big one. Oh, hey, thank you, Sean. Welcome. Rock all day. Rock of Ages. I think we're legally contractually obligated as we are on the Pajukin to talk about the fact that Henry Cavill is rumored. I think it says rumored. He's in talks to star for one of the lead roles.
Yep.
So he's in talks, and that doesn't mean he would necessarily be the Highlander or he would be the villain. But again, it is directed by Chad Stahelski of John Wick fame. So,
well, I remember we talked about him getting the Highlander a couple of years ago. Like he was in talks to direct it. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
So
good.
this has been something that's been in the been in the works for a while. But Henry Cavill, okay.
Yeah, not mad at all. And
have you watched any of The Witcher?
No, of course not. I should buy you a shame bell, and you should just keep it on the desk when we're doing our shows. And you would ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling.
But because he's a really good swordsman in that series, so maybe the series is constantly like, you know what, I could probably do the Highlander.
I think it's one of those things as well where it's well recorded that Henry Cavill is a huge nerd, from building his own PCs to being in D&D. Like he understands the culture entirely.
Yes.
And I think I love if the backlash of him not getting a universally loved Superman movie is like, fuck you, I'm going to play all the other roles I want to. Cool. Like that's fine by me. Like him going in The Witcher, and now I wouldn't say a direct like one-to-one, but like, and you might be able to talk how far is The Witcher from Highlander? I feel like they're not too dissimilar.
Well,
I mean, yes and no.
Yeah, they're both in the fantasy world. I'll give you that.
They're both in the fantasy world. They're both in quasi-medieval times.
Right. It just with Highlander it gets weird because they're aliens and
I mean, are they? I mean, I've only ever seen the first Highlander, so if you tell me they're aliens, I'll believe it.
Yeah, in the later movies, it's revealed that they're a race of aliens that causes them to be immortal. But I mean, they could redo it for this. I'd be okay with that. I'd rather because it's one of those things. It's just like keep it simple.
I just had an idea. What if he's not the Highlander and they bring him on as the Kurgan?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
That would be so cool. Like. Drew says The Witcher is more magic and not as much in swordplay. So the reason
episode.
Well, and that's the thing is like that's why I kind of bring it up, because they're not the same, but yeah, and no, you're totally right, Andres. That's basically where we are here. Like Andres says, I like The Witcher a lot. I'm a big Cavill fan and loved his Man of Steel, and I think he'll be a great fit for this director John Wick. I love that too. And that's one of my things is like the more the John Wick directors get to do, the better. And you can even lump in, I still need to see Nobody. I really want to see Nobody, even though that wasn't one of the John Wick directors. It was the gentleman who directed Hardcore Henry. And I have a soft spot for that movie because it's so ambitious, which is one of the reasons I liked it. Almost gave me motion sickness, but it's a very ambitious movie. And I do respect that ambition, Isaac, if you're still listening and not watching the crew game. I think that's just general excitement.
Yeah, no, I would be more excited if he was the villain than if he was the actual lead.
I wouldn't mind.
Because also give him a chance to. I don't think he's actually been like a villain in anything, except maybe Stardust. Like he's always played a hero.
Yeah,
he's always been a good guy.
He's like a Gaston villain in Stardust.
Yeah,
Yeah, like he's not like a direct villain, but he's kind of there to like just fuck up the plot more or less. So I'm trying to think which one of these would be shorter. This one I found interesting. Speaking of John
Star
Wick,
Trek got me. Mission Impossible.
for what part?
Fallout. He was a villain in that.
Oh yeah.
He was more than just the guy who reloaded his fists.
Yeah. No, he was straight. I should have thought of that as well. Yeah, he was definitely a straight up villain in that. Speaking of John Wick, segue. John Wick Chapter 4 has announced starring in a starring role Rina Sawayama, and I think I pronounced that right. And she is a Japanese British pop superstar who I have never seen or heard of before this casting because I do not follow pop music that much. But apparently everyone who knows this person is really excited about the casting. Have you ever heard of this individual before this casting news?
I get to say I'm old.
We're both getting there, man. I gotta say it.
What? Back in my day, I know what used to be it, but it's not it anymore, and that frightens me.
You haven't heard this? If you want to see here, I'll drop this in the chat if you want to go check it out. Isaac says she's awesome. Andre said he hasn't heard this. There is the link to the story if you want to see it. It's not much more than I've just said. So, I mean, they give you a little, wow, okay, cool. Apparently, she was born in Japan and raised in North London. She came to pop stardom from Cambridge University, where she studied politics, psychology, and sociology. That's cool.
Neat.
Yeah, super neat. So, yeah, that's a lot of fun. And she will headline her first world tour later this year. That's awesome. Good for her. Was like that. We'd like all that news. I think, man, I'm trying to think because I only have 3 stories left and which ones what order I want to do these. All right, let's do the one that we are. Whoa. So Isaac said her music crosses Britney Spears pop with some emo hardcore, which sounds weirdly up my alley.
I was gonna say if something's up your alley, it's that.
It would be that, yeah. But anyway, I want to get to a story. This is probably the most unpleasant is a strong word, but the story that we have to talk about. But basically, and this was confirmed in a very strange article from the Hollywood Reporter. Hollywood Reporter puts out an article in the middle of a list of Hollywood's most powerful lawyers. And the thing that got everybody talking was there was a section dedicated to lawyer Warren Dern that can be read that his client Todd Phillips struck a deal to co-write the next Joker installment.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at you quoting that.
Well, that's
I know, but when you do air quotes, it's usually meant to be sarcastic. Like,
no.
I'm handsome. I love the Fast and the Furious movies.
I do like the Fast and the Furious movies. Are you being sarcastic about that then?
Yes, that's
okay.
So Joker 2. Great.
It is being written.
No one asked for it in this, at least here.
No one asked for the first one either.
We barely asked for the first one.
This is the only. I'm a little regretting I didn't push Chris to be on the show because I know he's a big fan of it and we really aren't. So I will say this: Joker has some really, 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 really good parts about that movie. Like Joaquin is amazing, score is amazing. I'm not a huge fan of like where the movie came and went and how much it borrowed from. Okay, if Drew hasn't seen it, so we won't spoil the movie. Isaac is putting all the jokes in the chat today. I kind of like this, although I don't know how you would pronounce that. He wrote J-O-2-E-R. So Jatour as opposed to Joker. So Drew hasn't seen Joker, so we won't spoil it. It is definitely worth a watch. To joke to I like that as well. Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
It's no, Drew. There's really not like it's one of those things. Like even if we were to spoil it, like it's not. There's not much to spoil. There's a lot around the movie that like I didn't like. Like I'm
we
happy
won't
they
go
got
into
to tell the story.
specific spoilers about it.
It's
one
just
of
our
those-
feelings about it.
Yeah, it's a movie. It's one of those things where when I got done watching it and I walked out, I was like, okay, it's not bad. It's not great. It's not great, but like I'm having this conversation in my mind, rationalizing what I just saw. And then there's this dude behind me talking to his girlfriend, like, so this is the greatest movie I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be like, dude, watch more movies.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of where
watch Martin Scorsese films that these are
and I
paying
think
homage to. And that's me putting a positive spin.
that was you putting it positively. That's the thing is like, and I think I remember reading an article during the pre-production of all this to where that was another big beef I had, that it wasn't supposed to be a Joker movie and they changed it to be Joker so they could get it made. And I'm like, that leaves a sour taste in my mouth. So
I mean, I get it. The movie, literally, if you take the Joker element out of it, maybe it's probably would have been a better film, but it's one of those things where, they got Todd Phillips, unfortunately, got forced into making a Joker movie.
Okay, Andres has a really great take on this where he says, I love Joker, but if they have an idea for Joker 2, I say go for it. I hated the idea of A Quiet Place getting a sequel back in 2018, and now cut to, I think the sequel is far superior than the original. I say wait. The only thing, and I will say that's, we do that a lot. We are very much, we do our best to be cautiously optimistic on the show. I'm very, very guilty of that. But the only thing I worry about with this particular property is, at least so far, Warner Brothers has not been able to help themselves, and they've really tried to force connected universes down our throats. So if this is being penned and there's even like them trying to tie it into Matt Reeves' Batman, that could go south real quick. And that you even saw like basically the unnecessary beeline of Bruce Wayne in Joker. I won't go into it further than that because it is there.
That was really forced.
Well, and that could be an interesting take. You bring another great point, Andres, where it says the original was inspired by Martin Scorsese, but what if the sequel is a Francis Ford Coppola epic of the rise of the Joker into a criminal empire a la Corleone? That could be good as long as it's like, and I think that was a little bit of my beef with the first one too, is like it didn't feel like homage so much as like the exact same thing. Like it didn't feel like they put their own spin on it. It just felt like a reboot. Like it felt like the same thing done again. Like, and I think that was one of my beefs about it, to where it was just like, I've seen this before, like this exact thing before.
So the way to get me interested in this project is you don't cast Joaquin Phoenix. And
He will. He won an Oscar. They're not going to not cast him.
But you cast somebody else in, because in the comics, there's the three Jokers, where there's three Jokers. Throughout the history, there's been three Jokers, three separate individuals as the Joker.
Sure.
So you had the first one with Joaquin Phoenix. So now you do the second one, which is about a different Joker, and you cast somebody else with it, and you do a different thing with it, because like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker is kind of like a homage to Jack Nicholson's Joker, which is one of the three Jokers in the comic books. So now you either do one of the more extreme, crazy versions of the Joker that was out there, or you do like the criminal boss Joker.
Oh yeah, you missed this a little bit earlier in the show. We actually already had a big long conversation, Andres, about actors and losing and gaining weight. So yeah, especially it was intense after seeing the year before, which I believe I think he does a better performance in You Were Never Really Here. If you haven't checked that out, it's an Amazon movie. It's amazing. It is. I will warn you, it is dark. You think the Joker is dark. This is so much darker than Joker. It's just Joker is one man pushed to the brink. You Were Never Really There is like a deep dive into PTSD and like how people cope with that, and how one person in particular copes with that. So I would highly recommend it, but it is not a pleasant film. All right, so I think that's enough Joker talk. Let's go to the last little bit. In other side of the coin, we had DC. Let's talk Denai Guerrera to reprise Okoye in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, and Disney Plus origin spinoff series.
Yes, please.
So yeah, that's one of the reasons I didn't want to talk about that one first, is because this one is just a clear and obvious. Yes, we want to see this. We'll be happy to see this. good for her for like, and I like that Marvel is finally like really expanding and taking some of those like highlights and being like, no, you are going to get your own series. You're going to get to play this character for a long time.
Well, again, using that streaming service.
They are so far. I think they also had a better, like Netflix is kind of trying to grab things out of the air or like create things. Whereas Disney Plus is like, oh, here's our old bag of tricks. And here's us pulling out all these fun things for it.
Well, it's literally, it's like we have this platform. We can do whatever, we can add to the story.
Yes. Enrich it. We can basically be doing comic book runs.
Right. Like, it's literally comic book, the MCU movies is like the main dish, and the Disney Plus is either the side dishes, the dessert, or the spices that go on top of this delicious meat.
Mm-hmm. Isaac is all here for that series. Andres is saying favorite Black Panther character and pick for the next Black Panther. The only reason I push back against that is because I don't think you get this announcement, especially with an origin spinoff series, unless they tried to time it out. Here's the but. Unless they tried to time it out and they had the origin series spinoff lead up to the release of Black Panther 2, you could be right. However,
I don't think that is because they've already announced the date.
Yeah, they are. That's the thing. They've already announced the date for Black Panther 2, and
July 8th of next year. So
then you'd have to shoot an entire show to release leading up to that, because I don't think they would put the cart before the horse and be like, she's Black Panther. You've seen her in 2 movies. Now see her where she came from. Like, I don't think. I know Disney's really good about releasing, and Marvel really good about releasing things. I don't think they would do that. I think. It'll be interesting to see who they choose to be Black Panther, because they already said they're not recasting it. So who knows? Last bit of movie news today, because we have gone really far all over the place, and we have not addressed Eric Wonka in the room.
Boom.
So it seems like, and I want to definitely get to what Timothée Chalamet is working on right now, because I read to the end of this article. In the end of the article, I went, holy shit. So it has been confirmed that Timothée Chalamet has signed on to play Willy Wonka in new origin tale from Warner Brothers and the Roald Dahl Story Co. I guess that's what Roald Dahl's
story company.
Yeah, I guess that's what his estate is called.
Yep.
So apparently I feel like this was a rumor. We've talked about this maybe before, but now it's like officially official. And basically, one of the things it highlights in this article, where it says sources tell Deadline that Wonka will mark the first time Chalamet gets to show off his singing and dancing skills, along with several musical numbers in the film.
Okay.
Apparently, that's a thing he wants to do.
No, I mean, I'm all for him doing that. He was a great host on SNL this year. It's just one of those things where when I heard they're doing the, Willy Wonka prequel, I was like, oh God, just what we need. A dark, gritty take on Willy Wonka.
Can you call me Wonka?
Can you call me Wonka? Hey, have a chocolate bar.
So, okay, but anyway, so this is what I thought was interesting. And this is the last paragraph in the article. For Chalamet, the Oscar nominee has avoided the tentpole pick over the years, with his upcoming Dune adaptation being his first venture into the genre. This film will also give him a possible franchise as well. Okay, and so later this year, and I think, I don't know if all these movies are coming out this year, but this is an insane slate. It's a movie, Star Drew. He asked if it was a series or TV show. It is a movie. So later this year, Chalamet will be seen starring in Denis Villeneuve's Dune, Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch opposite Frances McDormand, and Adam McKay's Don't Look Up opposite Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence. Like, holy shit. I didn't even know about, I don't think I knew about the Adam McKay one, or if I knew about it, I was forgotten.
This is literally the first one I've heard about it.
So yeah,
Wes Anderson, that's a perfect pairing, him and Tim Chalamet.
So basically, and that's what I'm really curious about, because he's done so many indies at this point. Like, I'm really curious to see. Oh, you said hold on, let me give you I want to say its sources tell that like they're not naming the sources, but I know you seem to want to see the article, so I'll give you the article, Andreas. And it was all over where I was seeing things online the other day. So this story is like 5 days old. Yeah, apparently it seems confirmed. Like I would be surprised if they went back on it. Let me put it that way. I remember when we were getting the Johnny Depp one, and I think I've seen bits and pieces. I might have seen that movie all the way through once, and
I saw it all the way through because I was dating a girl at the time who really loved Johnny Depp.
How'd that go?
I
We're
was
not married to her.
That, kids, is not the start of How I Met Your Mother.
It's one of those things that I grew up watching Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Or I guess it was Willy Wonka, the Chocolate Factory. Because Willy Wonka is the Gene Wilder one. Yep. I watched that one so much, like to grow up and like to grow up watching Gene Wilder the whole time, and then like as a late teen / adult, like be like, oh wait a minute, Gene Wilder had like R-rated comedies too, like never knowing him as anything other than Willy Wonka. And so that character became very beholden to me. And it's one of those ones that like, not so much that I have possession to where it's like, I don't want to see it reimagined or redone, but like, it's got that, special place in my heart to where when Johnny Depp did it, I was like, I think I remember seeing clips and I was like, huh. And that interpretation was very much not for me. So I'm curious to see.
Well, I think they're linking it to Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory, not Charlie.
The original. Sure. Yeah. So the thing I want to see, and I didn't see him on SNL, so I don't know about the comedy shops, but I want to see a chaotic energy. I feel like in all his roles, he's killed everything I've seen him do. He's been great, but it's always been reserved. It's always been smaller parts. I have yet to see him do something big. You know what I mean?
Well,
like a big.
We'll say it in Dune.
So I see. That's the thing I know nothing about. Is he the?
He's the main.
I know he's the main, but like I'm trying to think of the term. I might be able to. Is it the Kitspot Hatterack? How do you pronounce that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
Is it not that, or am I completely off base?
Are you asking about his character name, or?
I don't. That's a term. Yeah. I don't know what his character name is. But
okay. Sorry, I'm trying to say. What are you trying to reference there, buddy?
I might have butchered the pronunciation. I was hoping that like Isaac might have caught it or whatever.
He is the main. He's the principal actor. He is the main character. Dune is based on everything revolves around him.
I knew that. I was trying to because there's there it is. Andre said it because I thought you would know Dune better than me.
That I don't because I've only watched the movie once. The OG.
I saw the one in the 90s a couple of times. Let me see if I can find it real quick here on. It's okay, Isaac. I'd be distracted by the crew game too. We're actually going to wrap up soon, so I can see the second half. I think you might be close to the Hatterack, but I wanted to get the pronunciation right just because it was Arrakis. I think that's his character's name, or Duke something. I don't. There's going to be a lot like my sister loved loved Dune growing up. So it's one of those things like I saw it a little bit and I saw it when they redid it. Hata. Nope. That's definitely not how you spell it. I know, and that's the thing that's bothering me is like I know the term, and it's basically like I think it's what his character is supposed to become, and there's like a reference to it. I just can't. I can't pull it, and I don't know if I can skim the Wikipedia quick enough to make it make sense. But anyway, so have you read the books, or you said you only saw the movie?
I saw the movie.
Tim, I know, but I'm trying to think of the other term for, like basically the title they're trying to give him or something like that.
Oh, he is the Kwisatz.
There it is. Oh, I found it too.
Yep,
I found it. It
the
is
ultimate goal.
Kwisatz Hatterack. That's what the fact that I got that close, I'm really happy with myself. Yeah. So, yeah, basically, wow. this looks gnarly. So I found it. I'll put it in the chat, just that particular spelling, because I'm going to butcher it. Quetzat Haderach. Yep, there it is. Oh, and of course, now you say it, Tim. Damn it. I was close. So, which is Sarge S. Which is more scary, the worm from Beetlejuice for Dune or Tremors?
Oh, Tremors.
I would, yeah, especially Tremors being like land Jaws. So, but I mean, like, so Chalamet, I said I wanted to see that chaotic energy. Was there anything like you'd be interested to see him doing Wonka?
Well, I didn't know it was going to be more lighthearted than, because I thought it was going to be like the dark gritty, like he's lost at sea for days and then he ends up on this strange land with the Oompa Loompas, and then we see how he cons them into working for him in a factory. No, it's going to be more lighthearted. I'm okay with that, especially like I said, I saw his SNL performance, a couple of skits, so he could do it. I'm on board now.
I will take your recommendation, and I will say I will be cautiously optimistic as well. It's one of those things like, especially.
I mean, yes. Do we need a prequel for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? The answer is always no. But here we are.
Yeah, I mean, we made it to 2021. Let's get a new one. Also, we have an interesting debate going on between those worm comments. Andre says the 2021 Doom words within teeth are far more afraid to get swallowed by that. And Tim agrees with him, saying the Dune worm is much more massive than all those. Shia is a massive word. Of Dune or of Wonka? Because I don't think
director for Wonka has been confirmed, and Denny Nueve for
Dune.
For Dune.
So we don't know the Wonka one yet. But yeah, I think that's it. I think that's a pretty good cliff notes over 2 weeks of stories that we missed. So
yeah, there
is like much like Isaac is being distracted. There's a crew game I need to go put on and watch the rest of. But hopefully we'll have a little bit more time coming up, and we'll be able to figure out a little bit more of a concrete schedule, whether we keep doing every 2 weeks on Saturday or whether we throw it on to another weekday. We'll let you all know. I didn't see one in the article. I was saying, Andreas, they've had writers attached. I didn't recommend
Paul King will direct.
Paul King? Okay. Was there of any fame?
Let me see.
I was going to say I didn't recognize any of the screenwriters' names.
Okay. Oh, he directed the Paddington movies. Okay, he's going to be perfect.
There you go. So there you go.
Paddington 2 is the most perfect movie. I don't care what that one critic said to ruin its rating.
I was going to say that is something we didn't cover, whereas Paddington is now dropped out of that top slot on Rotten Tomatoes. But, oh well. It's Paddington. We all know where Paddington lives in our hearts. So, anything else? Anything else you want to cover, Eric Wonka? Anything you need to plug?
Nothing to plug, but let me just show you something, Dan, just to remind you of the old days. Ruby is clearly bored.
Oh my God. So back when we used to record in one room and we were looking at each other, there would be at least once or every other time. Eric would either have to take a toy from Ruby, or there would be a toy that Ruby got that was making so much noise that I would have to vamp while he went down and grabbed the toy. So
that is the second toy she's destroyed, I think.
There being a crime scene.
There's the other body.
Oh man, Ruby is a murderer of dog toys. Yeah, that's our mascot. Perfect mascot. Perfect. So thank you very much, everyone. Across the internet from me is Clever Eric Muller.
And across the internet from me is Handsome Dan Nye.
Check out all the other glorious shows on the Pajukin. I'm sure we got some watch-alongs coming up. I do know they just recorded a Q&A. There's another commentary. You can check out the Patreon. You can do all that fun
You can get a commentary for 101 Dalmatians. Which one? Find out.
There are links below us to everyone's social media and to the Patreon and the Streamlabs, all that fun stuff. We will see you guys next week. As always, ramble on.
Anchors away.